Hello and welcome everyone to episode 4 of the Planeswalker podcast. I'm joined here. That's Jason Florent, Danny T. Law. Of course, I'm Seth Manfield. So this is not going to be your ordinary podcast, right? I just wrapped up playing the grand finals, and we've actually got a special guest coming on. This is a friend of mine who I've been playing Magic with for a while. You may have heard of him or you may have seen him this past weekend. It's Austin Bursavich. Okay, so he won the grand finals, and he's just been having a killer year playing Magic. He was very close to making the Rivals League in a number of ways. He's got a killer testing team. He has just been kind of pretty dominant, and also a community figure, kind of advocating for just players' rights, I guess I would say, within the community. He did get briefly banned, but then got unbanned. That was kind of a whole publicity fiasco, if you will. But in any case, we are going to kind of go through, talk to him about the bans, talk to him about his life in the tournament, and I'm excited to introduce Austin Bursavich.
Obviously, I think we should start with, first off, congratulations on your big win. That's really impressive. Really nice. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. What basically, for anyone that doesn't know, amounts to Worlds this year. Is 32 of the absolute best players on the planet, with you coming out on top. So yeah, I mean, why don't we start there? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that was like preparing for that tournament and actually playing in it?
Yeah, so it was a little crazy because we didn't really even know the formats or how the tournament was going to be until like 2.5 or 3 weeks before they finally dropped some stuff. I mean, we knew that first was going to be 25,000 and it was a 250,000 prize pool. So, there's something to play for, but it's not like a huge thing. So I didn't know how much people would care. People thought it would be like a big deal, but once it got closer and they announced the formats, we decided that we would try our best, and it seemed like kind of a big deal, and people in the tournament would all care about it, even though it didn't feed anything. So yeah, leading up to it, me and Alan were the only people from my team qualified. So we kind of decided we would want to have a group of 4 if we could. So I didn't know exactly where to start. I knew Seth and Brad might be a pair, but they might be testing with other people already. I knew Sam Sherman and Ben Whites were probably a pair, but they might want to test with some of the other guys like Matt Nass. So once we saw the invitational that Aaron qualified, me and Alan have some history with him because he beat us with Clover at DreamHack.
Right.
And I ended up getting 3rd, where Alan got 4th, because me and Alan were staying in the room together. And the night before, we were like, "Dude, we just got to fade Gertler. We can't beat him. Like, this matchup is just so bad. We don't know what to do. It's this deck we haven't played against." And anyway, that's exactly what happened. He just crushed us both. And yeah, we knew Clover was like the best deck. So I was like, I would like to work with him. Let's reach out to him and shoot, because I know they're good friends. And Alan likes Shoop already and is pretty good friends with him. So yeah, they both said that would be cool, and we just went from there. And then Shoop had some of his friends from the invitational testing, like Ginky and Rage, and they helped us out as well. So yeah, we started with Historic because we knew Standard had bans coming, and then yeah, we jumped into Standard, and we knew what decks we were going to play pretty early on in both formats, but our testing process went really well.
Out of all of the matches, which one were you the most nervous about, or the most I really need to win this match? This one means the most to me in the tournament.
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, the first match of the tournament against Canister is it's so important to start off with a win in tournaments that are small fields and tiebreakers. Because I thought I know it's the stop at 8 wins format, but if you get to 7-4-1 or whatever, you're probably going to be locked if you started off 2-0 or 3-1 or something. But if you start off 0-2, it's always just such a battle. So yeah, that was huge to start off with that win against Canister. But then in the top 8, I mean, obviously the first match is so important, because going to the losers bracket is just horrible. You have to play a bunch of extra rounds, but I lost it. So from there, it was every match is important. And the best ones were probably the ones against Wrath and Gabe in the top 8. They both went to some insane third games. And I mean, Every match did. Emma and Autumn went to 3 games too, so it was just every match was insane, honestly.
I'm curious what you think about the tournament structure because we heard some different players mention that there were some intentional draws at the end of the tournament, kind of going into top 8. And I know you were the first seed, right? So you actually just kind of you were the favorite going in, and you actually just beat everyone, including myself. So congratulations for that. But what do you think about like just being done after whatever 9 rounds, and then you did get to play, I guess, in the top 8, and then the double elimination format?
Yeah, that's a good question, and thank you for the congratulations again. But I was X1 going into the second day, 5-1, I guess. And yeah, when you get to 8 wins, you stop. So I 2-0'd the first, I was 2-0, and I had to win it in the last round of standard with 4 rounds to go. And I didn't really think much about it. I was playing against, I guess, Patrick at that point in a mirror. And I beat him. He had some rough draws in one of the games, and so I'm just locked for top 8. But then I look at how my teammates are doing, and Alan I think, just has 2 losses, and Aaron has 3 or 4. So they're both still alive for top 8, and I'm just not in the tournament, which is not a big deal for me. But it's like if this was just normal worlds, I would have almost for sure got paired against Alan in one of the next 3 rounds because he ended up losing and then winning, and it's like I've already played against you and Autumn today, and you were the other 2 at the top of the standing. So it's like there's only 3 or 4 people for me to get paired against, and so yeah, I would have been able to just scoop Alan in, and I'm like maybe I should have just conceded to Patrick because I was already locked for top 8. Like multiple 7 4-1s ended up making it, and before they announced the 8-win format thing, I had looked it up, and you could just see that anyone who is 7 4-1 or better would be locked if they didn't have this 8-win stop thing. So with 32 people and 12 rounds, if you do the Swiss thing, like you just need to get to 7-4-1 and you're locked. So I just needed a draw, and I was in the top 8. But yeah, they forced me to stop playing, and looking back on it, I didn't really like it because it's like it ended up not accomplishing any of the goals that I assume they had for that structure, like to really not incentivize people to draw, not incentivize people to scoop, like in the late rounds in such a small field tournament. But like I should have scooped in round 9, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know. I don't love the stop playing thing, but otherwise I enjoyed the format. I like the top 8 format.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the Swiss rounds and kind of how they seed into the top 8, but it's kind of funny also that you lost your first round in top 8, I believe, and I actually did the same thing in the Mythic Invitational. So like if we were playing a Pro Tour or whatever, we would have been in 5th through 8th, so I mean, there's definitely some things that maybe are easy. I think we're critical because we're also comparing it to structures that we're more used to, but it may also just be a structure that is not like their goals may not be to give us our highest EV or whatever. I think my biggest thing is just I just don't want I didn't like the intentional draw at the end of the Swiss because we were literally just watching Gab and Rav play a match, and it was like they're actually just not playing for anything. It was kind of like frustrating, I think, for a lot of the viewers to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the top 8 double elimination brackets they've been doing in these tournaments. I mean, I think that's awesome for the viewing and for the Sunday. It's just so much more exciting than someone just loses a match and then they're just out and it's just kind of short. So I love that part of the structure. But yeah, it was just the when you have to stop playing at 8 wins that I didn't really like. And it might still have been good for accomplishing what they wanted it to. So it's hard to say.
Do you guys think if they just got rid of the intentional draws, does that just solve the problem? Because I agree, day 2 double elimination viewing so much better, and just like it's just a richer experience. Like you say, flattens out the EV a little bit, which the pros like. Better viewing experience, kind of better all around. But the draws, it seems like, is the big issue, and it really does make a lot of sense. Like the most ultimate sort of round is the last round. Like who's gonna make it? Those last few spots, it's like really exciting to make top 8, and it's just like some people draw in, and it's like super lackluster. So can they just get rid of draws, and does that just solve it?
I would do that. I mean, if I was in charge especially for arena tournaments like this, I think it's just easy to just say that you can't intentionally draw. But maybe there's some issue with it we don't know about, because it seems like they would have wanted to do that. So I don't know why they haven't.
Yeah, I think Crookies also started a tweet about it after he was watching it, and he definitely did not like it, and I also did not like it. The second day was amazing. I mean, top 8, that was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, so we covered that a little bit.
I have a question, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my question to you is, like, you faced in the final Aaron Gertler. He's like your teammate, your friend. So
The end
what
boss.
were you thinking? The end boss. The lower end boss. What were you thinking while, now, okay, I'm in the final, but I have to play against him, and he definitely knows the deck really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, once I went to the losers bracket, it was just nonstop. Like, every match went to 3 games. It was like super intense. I beat the 2 Gruul decks and then jumped right into mirrors, and both against Raph and Gabe. It was like long game 3s, and you have like 2 minutes. Like, I would just like make stuff up. I need to go get my water and get a bit. I would just leave for like 7 minutes. I'd say I'll be back in 5 minutes, and I would just take extra time. But like, you don't get breaks at all. And so I just come sit back down, and I have to play him. I didn't even get to talk to him like before the final started. So we didn't even discuss anything. Like, I had congratulated him when he made it, but it was hours ago when he's already locked up his final slot. And yeah, I had told them in the interviews, and I did believe it. Like, he's the person I would want to play against least in the mirror. I think he's just better than everyone else in the tournament, including me, at playing the deck. From watching him, he's just so confident and so quick. It just seems like he doesn't make very many mistakes at all. And yeah, but at the same time, I had just been playing all day, and I'm like ready to go. And I know it's just another match of a mirror that I've been playing all day, and I played against Aaron in practice a bunch. So I wasn't even nervous. I was just happy that we were both in the finals. Like, we can't lose. Who really cares? It's bonus. And yeah, it worked out. He had some pretty weak draws, and mine were pretty good.
So I have a question kind of coming off that. Okay, so you did an earlier interview saying you thought, and you still had a few matches left to go, you thought you were going to make it to play Aaron. My question is, did you believe that you were better, you were going to basically beat everyone else until you played against Aaron and then lose to Aaron? Or do you feel like maybe you got into this kind of rhythm where, because you were playing so much, you were like kind of in this mentality, in a sort of do you like believe in that type of thing where, like, once you start stringing wins together, it just kind of like snowballs and you just kind of start playing better? Yeah.
For me, it actually is true, because like I think my biggest weakness in games is like, I just sometimes can't focus or something. Like, I just like am totally not myself, and it just happens sometimes, like, at randomly. But when I'm in the zone like that, I just don't stop playing. It doesn't seem to happen. It's always like when I go on a break, or I have a long wait between rounds, and I just start, and it's like I just, for some reason, I'm on critical turns, and I just can't even think about anything. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? I just start roping. Like, it happened to me in the tournament a couple times. But on Sunday, like after the match with Emma, from there, it wasn't happening to me at all. Like, I was just seeing things clearly and just playing and playing and playing, no breaks. So I think it did help me for sure. The fact that I had no breaks. But to your other question about, did I think I would beat everyone else and then lose to Aaron? I had to play against everyone because I was the 1 seed. And I had already played against almost everyone in the top 8. Like, I played against Raph, and I knew their list was a little bit worse. I thought he had made some mistakes against me in the Swiss. And I beat him 2-0, and I was like, I wasn't that worried about playing against him. But at the same time, it's just a mirror. I'm confident, but I know it's still going to be a close match. And then, going into the match against Nassif, I didn't have time to think about it. Just start, look at my opening hand, and let's go. And then in the finals, like I said, he gets to go first. He's probably the best player in the tournament with the deck, but see what happens, and it worked out.
Yeah, interesting point you bring up there, Seth, because I've heard a lot of people talk about momentum or whatever, and I totally agree with Austin. I have the same thing where, like, if I'm in the zone and I'm just like, match after match, cool, you just stay there in the zone. But like something like if you're at a Grand Prix or maybe like a paper PT or whatever, and you have those big gaps in between rounds, like just eventually you kind of just like, oh, you're going to go talk to some friends about something else or be on your phone or just thinking about something totally outside the game. And sometimes it's hard to get back into that zone and back focused on the game. Was that kind of what you were getting at, Seth, or did you actually, I've heard people talk about momentum before. I thought maybe there's more to your question.
It's that, and just kind of this belief. Like, it's just like belief that you're gonna win. Like, it's like you just kind of know, like in the back of your head, you're just gonna, like, even though it doesn't make sense and it's not logical, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna win. Like, I don't know if that was something that was like, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I do. If I lost.
Yeah. I mean, you seemed very casual. You were drinking your water bottle. You were leaving. When you were leaving a couple minutes during while the games were going on.
Yeah.
Like chat was kind of
really quick. I left against Dad for the first time because I just had to pee, and when I passed the turn, I thought he was going to take at least 3 minutes, and I didn't have anything, and he knew that. I knew I was going to lose the game. Just going to take a long turn, so I'm just going to go pee instead of during sideboarding. I might as well do it now. And then I went to pee, and I didn't take that long, 1 minute. And when I came back, it was already in sideboarding. But I had creatures, and he didn't have a board, so I didn't know how I died, and I didn't have time to think about it. I'm I have to sideboard, but somehow I just died from 13 life, and it's only been 1 minute. I didn't even think it was possible. But he had multiple clovers and 2 bone crushers, and he just went to my face when I look back at stream, after the whole tournament. I was like, how did that even happen? So yeah, that kind of threw me off. I was like, what? How in the hell did I die? But anyway,
you're probably looking at their sideboard and be like, they don't play fling. Like, what?
How did I die? I gotta stop thinking about it. Who cares? Let's go game 2.
If you were not playing fling, how do you think you would have done in that top 8? You think you would have lost games because of that?
Probably would have gone 0-6. No, I think that certainly some of those games I would have lost, but it's I played all of the games knowing that I have fling and knowing that Gab and Raph have no once in future, no way to gain life. They only have the 2 counter spells. They don't have fling. Knowing all of that stuff made it to where I could play in a way where even if I was, falling behind, as long as I got their life total below 10 and they can't get a presence on the board, then it's you just run out of mana. You don't sometimes you can have all the cards in the world, but it just doesn't matter. You don't have the fling, and I do. So
I agree with you when you said your coolest matches were against Raph and Gab. I remember, and I think you are 100% right about your list. There was one match against Raph where I think he tutored almost all of the cards out of his sideboard, and you hadn't tutored all of yours, but it just seemed like he still couldn't answer your fling at the end. It's all you did was just get a negate and a fling and a beanstalk giant, and it's how do you even deal with it? And then there was the situation against Raph where he had a Kenrith, and I think that was the moment where he just he went 1 turn too early. He blew his his gas just when he didn't have the win, and that felt like his fling, right? When you play your Kenrith, you got to have the beanstalk ready to go and then ready to haste it, and he didn't. And then because you survived that turn, it felt like you were able to you just had more ready to go. So
I totally agree with that. I think that the Kenrith turn from Raph was really interesting. On my turn, I did not consider Kenrith at all. They have one in their deck. I just forgot about it. I wasn't even considering it. But at the same time, I only had 2 mana up. I went for the Return to Nature play that game, and so I had negate and Bone Crusher up with my 2 mana, and he didn't have a board, and I was at 11 or something, and I was I can't die to anything. They don't have fling. They don't really have a way to get haste, whatever. But I just forgot about Kenrith. So when he played it, I was actually super panicked when it was on the stack. But luckily, he only had 3 mana left, and he had the Omnath already in play, so I could Bone Crusher it. But I looked back at the match later, and people were saying, Reed in the chat, if he would have played the Kenrith first, then played his Omnath, he would have had 3 mana up to be able to pump it. And I couldn't double Bone Crusher the Omnath.
And I think he might have even had a Bone Crusher in hand. I'm not sure if he did.
Yeah, he had a Bone Crusher in exile he could escape. He could still stomp me. But I wasn't dead anyway, because he only had 3 mana left. So if he would have given haste and then attacked with both, I wouldn't have been able to Bone Crusher his Omnath because he could just put a counter and put me to 1. But I could just take it and go to 2, and he has 2 mana left. But I have negate up for his Bone Crusher, so I could just untap. But it was going to be tough because I would only have 12 mana, and I would still have to deal with the board, worry about the Bone Crusher. And instead, he just made it easy by playing it in the other order. So I just got to fire off the Bone Crusher, and it goes like what you said. He used his Kenrith now, and it's like he got me down to 4 or something, but he's tapped out.
Yeah, for me, I would have just tried to wait one more turn until I have 13 mana, and then I can go Kenrith, Beanstalk, haste, and
I think the biggest mistake that they were making, Raph and Gab, in the games was like not prioritizing just getting Beanstalk Giant into play. Like their deck doesn't have the Fling, and they have Embercleave instead, and they were ahead. And if you look at my list and our list, our biggest problem was that we don't have good Beanstalk Giant answers, and I just accepted that. Like I'll figure out a way, and I have the 2 Giant Killers that I'm going to leave in my deck, and our sideboard has a Primal Might like that could get to it, and we have some other like ways where you can just chump it or whatever. But if you get behind and they have Beanstalk Fling or Beanstalk Embercleave, like I'm just going to die to that. So the Ugin is one answer we have, but you have to use the whole Ugin. It's not very efficient and it's pretty weak play. But yeah, in both of those game 3s, like they had Beanstalks and a mana advantage, but they just weren't putting them in play. They were like wishing for cards that don't matter. Like they wished for their whole sideboard and didn't do anything. So,
one play, speaking of Giant Killer, that I'm now remembering also that you made that I thought was a great play was against Autumn, where you just took 5 from a Lovestruck Beast, having a Giant Killer in hand to get rid of it, but you also had a Clover in play, and you were just kind of like, it was like this game where like, well, they're not going to expect that I have this Giant Killer because I didn't use it on Lovestruck Beast, so there's no way they're going to play around it. They'll just play another 4-power creature, and then I can just get the full value. And that was like, so I thought like you had these really close games. You had close games against Autumn, you had close games against Raph, and so it wasn't just like a luck, right? It was like there was a lot of maybe against Gertler, you probably got luckier, but against a lot of those matches, it was like the luck was fairly even. It was just kind of your list and your play as well. So yeah.
Yeah, now that you mentioned the Giant Killer play, I remember you really passed so fast there, and you really knew from the beginning what you want to do. Like in Arena, since we play Arena, right, this is totally different than Paper, and I think this is something we should talk about. You passed instantly, and I was like, okay.
And that was key, right? Because
that was so key.
Because if you think they're in tank, like maybe Autumn like rethinks like what are you even thinking about there? So like to already have your plan made up, like I'm going to take 5 from the Lovestruck Beast. You should know you're either Giant Killering it or you're taking 5 before you pass your turn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge point. The same thing goes for real life Magic. Like if you're thinking about something in a spot where it's weird, like if your opponent knows what they're doing, they're gonna know exactly what you're thinking about a lot of the time. So what I like to do is, when I'm taking my turn, before I do anything, I just plan out everything I'm gonna do for the whole turn. And like, there was a spot even on my turn, like when I decide I'm gonna leave up Giant Killer in that spot. Right as I play my last spell to leave up 3 mana, I'm spamming the arrows at the bottom right, so like they don't know I have something to play or think about, and like it looks like it's just auto passing. Like, and on Arena, I'm constantly holding full control, even when I have stuff in my hand or when I don't, just to kind of throw people off and to get myself in the habit of it. I see so many people like missing full control in spots where it's super important to bluff, because our deck has Borrower, Bone Crusher, Giant Killer, and like, if it just auto passes you and they know you don't have any of those cards, it's such a bad thing. And like it happened to my opponents multiple times in the tournament where they would just auto pass and I know they don't have an instant. And also they would tank when they only have up like 1 green mana, or tank on turn 2. And it's like, I know exactly what Gab is thinking about. Like if you should play Innkeeper or not. And like, I know it. And then it's like, you just need to decide before you play your land. Like he puts a green land into play. And
it's like green land, tank, pass. It's like,
a lot of small things like that can add up, and maybe they won't always matter, and you can be wasting some brain power. But at the highest level like that, it's kind of important to minimize those mistakes.
Yeah, great point. I'm definitely guilty of doing that quite a bit. I notice a lot when it happens to my opponents. I'm like, boom, I got you, like the auto pass. But then I definitely have not taken the step of like full controlling more. So are you just like hitting control constantly through every phase? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, so when you hold full control in Arena, it's like it says in the bottom that you're in full control, but for some reason, if you don't have anything you can do, like if you don't have a spell you can play, sometimes it just like goes away. Like in their upkeep, I snap full control, and then they like go to play a spell, and I see that it's gone, so I'm just like pressing it again, and yeah, that's kind of frustrating. But otherwise, if you do have stuff to do, you just have to press it once, and you're in full control. And it ends up costing me on the clock sometimes. Like I get roped because I don't even realize it while I'm on my own turn. I full control, and like I'm going to Beanstalk Giant, and it's like making me press OK multiple times instead of once, and I don't want to click through getting the land. So like it can be a downside too, but I've just gotten used to it, and I think it's helped me out overall.
Yeah, I bet that's a really good tip. I've had the same thing where I press it and then I thought it just like turned off every phase or something, and so like if it turns off, then like you're the next phase, and it's kind of like you don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know exactly how it decides to go on or off like that. Like I don't understand why it's turning it off. If I pressed full control, I thought I would just be in it for the whole turn, but I don't think it works like that because it just goes.
It does not.
Yeah.
Can you click on all the phases on like your opponent's turn and your turn? Does that do it also?
I think so, but I don't really do that. Like if I have to play a spell in their upkeep, I know I'm going to do that, or in their draw step, then I'll click those things. But otherwise, I just mostly use full control. I'll click the upkeep stop and then press full control on their upkeep, and then that's really it. But I think it works. What you're asking, yeah.
Cool. I mean, at a tournament, it would be kind of strange, right? If you every turn you just click all the things and then you just do it again. That would be interesting.
It's hard. It's hard to remember.
It's super awkward because it's also a leveling game, right? Like if you know Austin always does it, you give him that respect for having it or not having it in spots like that. But then if you know someone doesn't do it, it's like kind of like a big advantage, right? Because like then you just get a ton of free information.
Yeah, you have to balance, and you have to just do it all the time. I mean, like I was just going to do it when I have nothing, or even when I have something, I just hold full control. But there's another point, like you were saying, there was a couple spots where I had free rolls to check, like against Autumn. I cracked the Fabled Passage, and they thought I was gonna negate the Ranger's Guile in that game. But I was just checking to see if it would immediately let me sack it, and they have no more instants. Because if they don't, it'll just immediately pass, let me get my land, and then I'll know that they just don't have an instant. But it paused, so like Autumn could be holding full control. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that they have to have Embercleave. I mean, I suspected that they already had Embercleave in their hand the whole game, but like in that spot, if it just auto passes and it just lets me get the land, then it's like they just don't have another instant. So I can just negate the Ranger's Guile.
I remember when you sacked that Fabled Passage, commentary was just kind of like, oh, he's gonna cast the negate, and then they thought you like changed your mind or something, and that's pretty funny. But I guess if you I guess if you're checking for cleave and like it auto passes or something, then that makes sense. So
yeah, really interesting, and a good point you brought up about having to balance it. I was playing a match on stream for the first CFP tournament, and I had like one blue open, and so I did the thing where I clicked all the phases on my opponent's turn, trying to like bluff that maybe I had a mystical dispute, and it like didn't really quite work the way I wanted it to, but it did pause. But then I just drew the mystical dispute as well, and then I just didn't do that for the rest of like any of the match either. So like you really have to like balance it and like don't like do it appropriately so it makes sense to actually trick your opponent.
Yeah, it's kind of tough, and like you could be wasting brain space that you don't need. So what I try to do is just like in the matchups where there's instants and they matter a lot, I just hold full control on their turn a lot of the time. Basically, like that's the baseline, like just easiest thing you can do.
I mean, yeah, it makes totally sense. I mean, imagine soon everyone is just. And then, so it's really important we have no mic, I guess, now.
Yes, I don't know.
So talk to us. We know you did amazing this tournament, but people might not be super familiar with your name, although we know you've had a great run this year. So talk to us about a bit about the lead up to this event and kind of your experience playing during COVID and everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I guess like it was like almost 5 years ago now that I did well at the Pro Tour that you top 8 with Burn, and it was Fate Reforged or whatever, and I top 16 there, and then Chris Vanel and Ari and Brad, and then reached out to join y'all's team. So that year I played like four or five Pro Tours in a row, but that one was at the back end of the season. And I didn't really play Grand Prix, so I ended up with like 29 points or something. You needed 30 for gold. I had like a couple of 11.5s, but didn't quite get there. So then for those like next 3 or 4 years, I didn't really play much. Like I just went and played the RPTQ. I was doing family stuff and had a full-time job. And I mean, I still do. But I ended up just going to that Grand Prix in Dallas last year. end of last year, and the pro points stuff was going away, and there were no reason to play Grand Prix for pros. There was only a couple of 3-buy players in the whole tournament, and yeah, I won that Grand Prix, which qualified me for the last Mythic Championship ever, which was like the last old Pro Tour. So I guess that was end of last year, beginning of this year, and I just prepared myself by drafting a ton of Eldraine and talking with some local people, and then just play the best deck, and it worked out. And I 6-0 draft and top 8'd there. So that's when I decided to go for Rivals, because they had just announced it and I was qualified for everything. Nobody else really was. It's like, I guess I'll make a run at it. And it really all comes down to this first tournament, because there's only 4 in the whole season, and the 2 RPTs count the biggest. But I'm just still going to do my best. So I reached out to Colin and them, and they let me join Alan Wu and Ari and them's Team 5% for that tournament. And yeah, we put in a lot of work, and I just played a ton of online, and nobody played my deck. I played Blue-White Control instead of the Lotus Breach that everyone jumped to. But anyway, I top 8'd there, and then unfortunately COVID happened, and it's like season got deleted, points got deleted, all our fractionals got deleted, and it's like, okay, that's all frustrating, but what are we going to do about this race? Maybe it's still happening. We don't know. But then they come out with the next announcement that Rivals is like already done, and it's the top 8 points instead of 12. And I missed out because we were tied for 9th. So it's like, now I just can't even get Rivals this season, but I guess I'm just going to play out the tournaments I'm qualified for. So yeah, PT Finals was coming up in Houston, which was great because it's our hometown, but COVID just pushed it back to online. Then I got the ban because of the nonsense. So I'm like not even knowing if I'm going to be able to play the online one. And then from there, I had 2 days to prepare for the RPT online. And like, I just played what the team was playing, the ban deck. And like, I didn't do well. I started 4-0, but lost. And then, yeah, the PT Finals, I decided we would try for it because it's the first one ever. Seems like a sweet tournament. You know, I can't make Rivals or anything, but it qualifies for the grand finals, so I might as well try to top 16. It's a cool tournament, and yeah, we had a really good Team of Reclamation list there. Been testing with 7% for all these online tournaments too, with Alan and some of the guys who were qualified but maybe missed 1 or 2. And yeah, that was a great tournament. Alan top 8'd, I top 16, which was my goal, and then for this grand finals, we jumped into it, and that's really how it's been.
Yeah, a really, really impressive run over the last 2 years. Like a resume that any competitive Magic player would jump at. Literally, you've been basically one of, if maybe the most dominant Magic player not named Seth Manfield over the last 2 years.
Come on, man. I don't know that that's true. That I've been more dominant than
I don't know. It's true either.
I've gotten more more shots, right? Like Austin is just
sure, but it doesn't. I don't think it matters much. I mean, most people would agree that you've probably been a little more dominant. You played in more of the important tournaments, won more money and everything. But yeah, like Archer had a really good year as well, and he didn't even get to play in the grand finals. He had a better year than me. Alan had a better year than me. So there's other people crushing it too. But yeah, to cap it off with the grand finals win was nice because it really solidified the season. Despite getting nothing for it, it was a nice touch.
It's nice to see. I'll just put it like this: it's nice to see you and Alan doing so well and keeping up with things. I mean, it's easy to get discouraged a lot of times about the Rivals stuff because some of that stuff is you can't really control the rules for making it in a lot of the time. So to see you guys continue to crush it, a lot of people would argue that you should be in it, but that's not it's not worth discussing. It's not worth losing sleep over, right? But just to see you continuing to do well is nice.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's like I said, I'm just going to keep playing the tournaments I'm qualified for, and my goal was to make it into the league, so that's still my goal. But unfortunately, with the coronavirus, and we still don't know when we'll have live events again, so they're taking it one tournament at a time, and I'm only qualified for the next Pro Tour. So yeah, I just won the grand finals, but I'm qualified for one thing, and it's like, yeah, me and Alan are both qualified. Some of our team is qualified already from PTQs. Like Tommy Ashton had to win a 500-person PTQ. Knox won the Mox, so now he's qualified. Like, we're still qualifying, but when it comes down to it for me, if I break this tournament and I'm not qualified for the next one, like, I just don't have time. Like I can't be practicing for PTQs and taking up a weekend to play a PTQ. Like it takes everything out of me to spend 2 weeks preparing for these big tournaments and having my wife take time to watch the kids and stuff. So yeah, it's gonna suck if I ever brick. It's like my back's against the wall every single tournament. Because if I brick, it's like I'm not going out my way to come back. Like I'm out of here, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's climbing to the top of the Magic Mountain is fucking hard. It is really difficult. Trying to make it in through arena qualifiers or like you said, like 500 person PTQs, like it's tough. 500 people enter, one person makes it. So I don't blame you for being like, if you fall off, it's you're not going to be so enticed to come running back. But if you keep crushing tournaments like you have, Mythic Championship top 8, Players Tour top 8, Grand Finals win, bunch of top 16s. Grand Prix win. If you keep winning them, they can't deny you for forever.
Exactly. That's what I would always say.
And I think some of us just has to like hope that things change, right? Like part of it is the Magic scene, but part of it is also just the world, right? Like we have to hope that paper tournaments come back and that like invites start coming back and all these things start coming back. Because right now, I don't think anyone's really, even though we played in the grand finals and you're the winner saying about like, complaining about stuff. So, no one's really happy with the scene. I don't like, for me, for instance, I don't know if I'm not a favorite to be in the MPL next year. So, there's a number of things that none of us really know what's going on, but, it's just the nice thing is that, hey, we got to play in some sweet tournaments. So there's two ways to look at it, I guess.
Yeah, I'll just echo the last thing I'll say about that and the season and the way things are going is like I was so frustrated at first because it's like they had laid out the rules and then like they just changed it midway, and I've just been like, from even last year before they announced the MPL, it's like all the platinums and golds got kind of screwed. So it's like we have this bad taste in our mouth, and it's like, but now at this point, you just have to realize, like with the virus and with all the uncertainty with everything, it's like the people in the leagues are completely under the gun too, and like last year might have been the pinnacle of everything, and they might never get to have that shot again. And it's like I'm over here complaining that I'm not qualified or whatever, but it's like, who cares? Like I can take a year off if I have to. I'm sure I'll be able to come back and win a PTQ or a Grand Prix in 2 years when this stuff comes back. Like this is just a situation that I'm in. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. Like my little complaining is not going to change it, obviously. So I just think that it's like I just have accepted it. Like if I don't make top 16 or whatever I need at ZRC, then if I have time to play a PTQ or two, or there's a Grand Prix online that qualifies, maybe I'll play one now and then. But I'll just sit out for a year. It's fine. Like hopefully things get better, and that's all we can really hope for.
Yeah. So talking about all the success that you've had over the last couple of years, especially, and people might not know that you top aided some Grand Prix back in 2011, 2012 as well. So winning isn't new to you, but I want to ask you, because you have been quite dominant over the last couple of years, what do you kind of attribute that to? Was there something that you started doing differently? Was it the team that you started preparing for? Did you kind of level up in some way? Do you think variance has finally sort of evened out a bit? I'm interested to get your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I kind of tried to think about it the same thing a lot. Other people have asked me, but like I started playing in, I guess, Kamigawa or Ravnica like when I was 12 or 13, like a long time ago, 2004 and 5, and I started off with really good players. Like there was local scene. I was drafting Ravnica against people like really good at Magic, and I didn't know what I never played, so I'm like just learning the basics. But I got pretty good pretty fast in a few months, and then I found Magic Online. Like when I was in 8th grade, 9th grade, I would come home from school, play a bunch of Magic Online. I had one kid in my high school who also was pretty good and played, and then my brother. So from there, I joined the OSIP clan online when I was like a sophomore, junior in high school, and I got pretty good at Magic just from playing Magic Online. I won a couple PTQs. They had the old mocks, like some of the first mocks. I lost in the finals. I lost in the top 4. Like I was just coming so close, but never actually making it. And then I won a PTQ in Alabama in 2009 for with Fairies for Pro Tour Austin. And it was like extended, or I didn't play the format. I was busy with school. I showed up and I made day 2, but didn't do well. And so from there, I was always like, I was always going to PTQs and playing competitively, but never really going for it. Like I always had other stuff going on. So I've been around forever, and I've won a bunch of PTQs. I would I would play Grand Prix, but people say like Grand Prix grinder or something. I play like 1 or 2 a year since 2006. I played like 25 total, I think, in my life. But yeah, the biggest level up would had to have been when I joined the team with Seth and them. Like I didn't realize it was happening, but just preparing with like those 15 people, it was so many good players: Seth, Steve Rubin, Brad, BBD, Jerry Thompson, and then everyone I'm forgetting. I mean, there's like Chris Fennell, and we would have Andrea Mengucci or whatever. It was a huge team that would change a lot. But
there was literally cards flying around the room.
Yeah, it was insane. That was a great time, and like that year, I'm sure I got better and didn't even realize it just from being around all of them and learning, how to prepare better and stuff. But as far as this year and what changed, I would just say I'm at the point where it's like I'm preparing really well because I can focus. I know exactly what to focus on, and then having the structure of the Team 5% Discord and having Alan to talk with and stuff, it's just been really helpful. And maybe some of it is that I'm just in my comfort zone playing on Arena, playing these style of decks, like playing the best deck, playing a blue-green deck that's like got Oko and Instance and stuff like Veil of Summer, and playing Team of Reclamation with Growth Spiral and counter spells. Like this is just my kind of magic. And so that's probably been a part of it too. Like I would say it's just a combination of a bunch of things. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint one thing for why this year's gone so well, except some combination of all that.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I like that you pointed out, that the decks you've been playing that have been dominant have been your kind of Magic, and I think that's something that maybe people don't realize. Something that I've always kind of thought about recently is that you see people sort of, be very dominant on a format, and then maybe they won't for a little while, and then they'll come back again. And it's kind of a little bit of it is because certain players kind of just get certain parts of Magic, and sometimes those parts of Magic are dominant, and they will do very well. And then sometimes they're not, and you'll see them kind of drop off. That's like a really interesting point that you bring up there.
Yeah, maybe I'm not being myself there and being a little too humble because like back in the day I'd say like I'm limited player, like I prefer limited, and so when I get to draft a lot and at the Pro Tour, the limited rounds are the easiest because a lot of people don't know what they're doing, or they didn't prepare well, or just not good drafters. They came from constructed, so that was where I would always get my edge. But then I played Infect, like a weird combo aggro deck to the finish, my first finish, and then I'm playing like the red green aggro deck at the Pro Tour. I played mono red at one of the Pro Tours. I went 8-2 with Abzan aggro at the Pro Tour. But yeah, when I say my kind of Magic, I guess it's more just like that. It's the formats are condensed to like only 2 or 3 decks, and one of them is like clearly the best. So we can tune the decks. We know what to expect. Open deck list. That's probably the biggest thing for me, honestly. Open deck list is huge for me. Like I just don't have the time to play a bunch like I used to, and I don't always know like exactly what's in the format, and I'm not good at like on the fly picking up interactions or thinking what people might have or how they will build their decks and how things go together. Like that stuff has never been my strong suit. So when I have open deck lists, it's like I know what they can have. Like I'm playing the Magic straight up. So if we have open deck lists, like I think I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've had like a very similar experience. I consider myself a limited player. And then also now with open deck lists, I found things to be totally different for me, where I'll have their deck list right there while I'm playing. And I'm like, okay, they have this much mana, like just break it down the way the game's gone. You can just kind of extrapolate what's going on. Whereas if you're playing someone, say, on Arena, like an Arena qualifier, or just on the ladder, you just have no idea. You're like, they could have literal anything. And like my brain just goes to like, every card in the format that could possibly be in those colors for that much mana. And like, it's too hard for me. And sometimes they just get you. Also, you just think you're playing against a stock list and some random card comes out. And I'm like, oh, I ran right into that because I didn't see it coming. So yeah, open deck list has been a game changer for me. And I could see them being, a big thing for you as well.
Yep, exactly. Back in the day, that was a big skill in Magic going into Pro Tours and stuff. Like you have to discern like from a few cards what your opponent's playing now. So like they play an Overgrown Tune tapped on turn 1. It's like, okay, they could be like 4 decks, but it's unlikely that they're like Death Shadow because they would have very likely shocked themselves or thought season me. Like you had to be always thinking about that stuff. And now that you can just like put that aside and not ever have to worry about it, it's like it's been made it so much easier to focus on the important things for me. And I think that definitely is a huge boon for me. If they get rid of open deck list, I'll probably start losing a lot more.
Yeah, it's funny. We've had it for a couple of years now, and I can barely remember playing without it. I feel like I've almost forgotten that that's a thing. I'm just like, oh, that's some weird thing that you do on Arena now. Like I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
For when it comes to, a lot of our listeners are, even me and Danny, are trying to qualify for the Zendikar Rising Championship. So there's a couple of qualifier weekends coming up. Wanted to get your thoughts on, any advice that you give for people trying to bink one of these arena qualifiers, trying to get there.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say now the format currently is kind of wide open, but you should just not try to overanalyze the field or what people will do. I would say, and just play the best deck or the deck you've been playing the most, because those fields end up being really big and kind of random. Because I played a lot of arena qualifiers and the opens and stuff, and it's like I'll try to time it where I play in the morning right when it opens, like maybe it'll be people playing aggro or something, but it just seems seemingly totally random. And I've tried to predict it with like, it seems like in historic right now, these 3 decks are so popular, and then I'll still just play like blue-eyed auras like twice in a row when no one had been playing it or whatever. Like you should just play a well-rounded deck that and then, just try not to take it too seriously or get too stressed out, because they're really, really hard. You can't lose very much at all. You just got to play your rounds, and then suddenly you look up and you have 10 wins. Like it happened to me once on stream in one of those things, the Mythic Point Challenge. I was playing Blue Eye Control, and I was looked up. Oh, I'm 8-1. No, I'm 9-1. Oh, I got 10 wins. Like you can't even believe that people are doing it so consistently. Like multiple people have qualified like 2 or 3 times from these arena things, and it's incredible because it's really, really hard. But all you can do is just play the best deck, keep joining them.
Yeah, that's great to hear you say that, because that's exactly sort of where my head's been at, what I've been telling people to do as well. They're super random. I've tried to time them to play early, play late, because all the slow decks will be there, try to farm those. Nope, still running into mono red like 8 hours in or whatever.
Yeah, and Austin touched on it, saying the format's now kind of wide open, and we've only got less than 2 weeks until these qualifiers. So, obviously the main focus has been the grand finals, but we do want to touch on those changes that just happened. We were playing, of course, we've only talked about standard really, but we were also playing historic as well. And so I think that most players are aware of the changes that happened in standard, but of course, Lucky Clover, Omnath, and then even this one I was particularly surprised by, Escape the Wilds is gone, and then Omnath being suspended and Burning Tree Emissary being unsuspended in historic. So yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to go through in depth everything, because that's a lot of cards that are changing and a lot of unknown, there's a lot that's up in the air. But let's open the floor of what it's been a day, a couple days since this has been, 24 hours since this has been in effect. So initial takes on what's going to happen moving forward.
Yeah, for me, this is really the first time I'll think about it, because I haven't been thinking about the new format at all. I haven't played at all, obviously. But I would say that the bans were very close to just correct and good. I think Omnath needed to be banned in historic. I think it was just the best deck, and it could be tailored to be almost everything in the format if you get it right. And even if you don't, you're going to be just naturally favored versus most things people want to do. So I think that was a good ban, and I'm kind of surprised they did it, but I think that was a good deal. I don't know what historic stuff is coming up for people, but the Burning Tree Emissary thing makes sense to me too. It didn't seem like that card was ever too good, so I like that they did that. But as far as what to play, I mean, it's back to in historic. I would guess the same big decks. Like the Jund Sacrifice is like just being held down by Yasharn, so you got to do that dance. But otherwise, it's like Sultai. An Uro deck is going to be a good deck all the time, and it's going to be 50-50 versus everything. Thoughtseize is still a good card, so the black-red. But yeah, it's hard to say where to go. Like I don't think the format is going to be condensed down enough to where you can still just like play blue-white or happily play some control deck because it's going to be like 2 or 3 decks, all Sultai and Jund. I think people are still going to play a lot of different decks. And yeah, I don't have much else to say about Historic, but in Standard, like clearly the biggest winners to me are like the red black Croxa decks because it was just a pretty powerful deck that was not good enough against the card Omnath and Escape to the Wilds. But now the ramp decks are just not going to be very, very, very powerful if people still play them, and you'll be able to actually beat them with just discard, like Croxa and whatever the 2-mana Transgress the Mind card. I don't know what it's called.
Agonizing Remorse, yeah.
It has to be like good enough to beat like some ramp decks with Ugin and weak ultimatums and stuff, because that deck's pretty powerful. Like Croxa and Temurite Calls the Dead, and then you get to play so many of the spell lands. That seems like a good choice. And then like Seth's deck, like a blue black mill or Rogue's deck is the next place that I would look. Except it might be naturally weak against red black, which could be a problem. I don't know if you can fix that. But after that, yeah, you can try a lot of new things, I assume. Like there might be a Winota deck, and an Embercleave deck might still be good, and control, like blue-black or blue-white control might actually be playable now because removal's good, Shark Typhoon's still good. So yeah, I'd say Standard's looking in a pretty good spot. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do.
I
totally.
Sorry. I basically agree with you with everything, except I was most surprised by the Escape the Wilds ban because I showed up to the tournament with a deck that didn't play Omnath at all. So yeah, I knew I wasn't playing the quote unquote best decks, but like I made top 8 of the event without playing any of those cards that just got banned. So it's like you're going to take out 3 cards at once. Like you're going to drop the hammer there. It's like, I don't know. That was kind of like it just felt wrong to me to ban all of that. I felt like Clover and Omnath was kind of the consensus choice, and then taking out Escape the Wilds when it's not really played in any other deck besides the Omnath decks that I'm aware of as of right now just kind of felt a little bit odd to me. But I mean, I certainly think that it was good to take out Omnath and Clover.
That makes a lot of sense. I didn't really touch on it, and the Escape to me is just kind of like seemingly random, but probably because they either are just being extra safe that like ramp is not still a deck that's like popular because people are just maybe tired of it and they don't want to see Escape to the Wilds into Genesis Ultimatum Ugin or whatever, even if it's not too good. And I don't think it would be, of course. And like the other option, maybe there's something we're not seeing with Escape that's like that they're worried about. It's still a long time until a new set comes out. The set just came out, so I don't think it's that. I think it's more of the first one. Like they're just being extra safe, and I don't think they needed to either. I think you're right.
Because it's like if you're gonna make bans every 2 weeks, why do you need to ban 3 cards at once? You just banned Uro a couple weeks ago, right? So like, why don't you just ban 2 more cards, and then if the deck's still good, you ban more cards from it? Which I don't think the deck is gonna. I feel strongly that it's not going to be too good.
That's another very good point. Yeah, it does totally unnecessary to me to ban Escape to the Wilds. I mean, it just needed to be Omnath Clover.
Mm-hmm. So we have like 10 standard cards banned right now, or how many? I mean, there's a lot, right? Like,
who knows?
It's ridiculous. So you all 3 weeks, the meta's just new. You have to start again, start over.
I saw a tweet from Brian Kibler. Apparently, there's been more bans in the last year than there have been like in the past 15 years or something. It's just absurd. I mean, like it's just hard to wrap your mind around. Like the 2 best creatures, I believe, in the history of Magic are Uro and Omnath.
Yeah, I would say it's not even that close. Like, what other good creatures even are there? Like, there are some of the best cards. Like, if we would discuss like Black Lotus and Ancestral Recall against like Oko, and I mean, like it's starting to get close. Like Mox Diamond or Oko. Like, I don't know what's better. I mean, Mox Diamond's probably better, but not by a lot. And I mean, Omnath, the more I played with it, I'm like, this is just the best card I've ever seen. But I mean, it's obviously not quite as strong as those cards, but yeah, it's up there. It's got to be one of the best creatures ever printed. Maybe top 3, yeah.
And there actually would be a meta where Oko, Omnath, Once Upon a Time, and all those fires and all those cards would exist in the same meta, which is impressive. And I tried those decks with another streamer, and yeah, it was really explosive. Let's say it like this.
Yeah, it's crazy. We think about that too. And apparently some of it, like some of these cards were made after like the Oko ban was already going to happen or whatever is what I've heard from people. But still, a lot of these cards would be legal at the same time. And it is kind of insane. It'll be a lot of fun though. I think we should just try
It is fun.
I know
It is fun.
Yeah, I was actually joking when I saw I guess who made the thing, like Saffron Olive or something he made like a big gauntlet of all the banned decks. There were like 16 decks or something. I was saying that we should just randomly get assigned one of those for the grand finals, and like every round you just get assigned a random deck. That would have been a fun format, but obviously they would never do that, and it's banned cards. It's like not funny to them, but it seems like it would actually be quite a fun format to play a few times. Maybe it would get old, but
I can see it.
sweet deck.
I think it'd be fun. Do all the silly things. Yeah, I love it.
Elk everything.
You can compete because everyone's battling. I don't know. I mean, it would be ridiculous after a couple of weeks of it, and maybe everyone would figure out which one's actually the best. But everyone trying to jam in all the stuff together would be hilarious to see.
Yeah, for sure. So also, what's next for you? Are you qualified for the Zendikar Championship currently?
Yeah. So whoever was in the grand finals is all qualified because at first, they made it to where to qualify for the Zendikar Rising Championship, you have to do these arena qualifiers, PTQs, be rivals, be MPL. They had the whole list. And in the list, the last thing was at the Pro Tour final, you need to go 11-4 or 10-4, some record. You need 30 points, 30 match points is what it said. So then we get to the Pro Tour final, and 2 weeks before, I'm sending them emails like, hey, the top 16 in this tournament qualifies for the grand finals, but there will be multiple people in the top 16 that do not have a record good enough to qualify for the Zendikar Rising Championship. So I don't think it makes sense. Like, you shouldn't need 30 points. It's too hard. There's going to be like 13 people in the whole tournament that have that record. So people are going to qualify for the grand finals, but not be qualified for this. And they were just like, ignore me, ignore me. I posted in the Discord. Nobody says anything. So then we get to the tournament, and it's like, there's 3 rounds to go, and I have my back against the wall. I have to win them all to qualify for to top 16. Like, I know I have to win all 3 rounds, and I'm playing mirrors every round against my teammates. I beat Knox with third to last round, really close game 3, and then the next round I don't know if it was another mirror, but I win, and there's 1 round left, and I'm looking at the standings, and it's like I can draw into top 16. Like, we can just draw into top 16. So I can't make top 8. I'm going to get like 10th or 11th if I win. I can draw into 14th or 15th, and I'm qualified for the grand finals. That's my whole goal here. But I won't be qualified for the ZRC. Like, I'll be short. I'll have 28 points. I needed 30, so I can draw myself out of my PPQ. Like, this is absurd. I have to decide to play or not. Like, it's such a horrible situation, and it happened to other people too. And some people played and lost. Like Andrew Beckstrom, I think he got 17th because he wanted to try to get his invite, and I guess he thought he could make top 8 too, but mostly it might have been the PTQ. Like, he's like, if I win this round, I'm qualified for both, so maybe I'll play. And then we were complaining, they didn't answer, they would not answer. Scott Larrabee said, like, we're not changing anything. And then like 3 days later, they emailed us like, actually, everyone who was top 16 has an invite. So sucks for Beckstrom, but I mean, I'm happy that they changed their mind, and everyone who top 16 that tournament is now qualified for ZRC. So luckily I do have an invite there. But yeah, that's just a funny story.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit bad for them. Well, I don't know if I feel bad, but like, I understand, I guess, how they Frankensteined everything together, because everything got thrown out the window and they had to just like jam systems together. Yeah, exactly. Could they have done
including
it better?
The prize pool.
Probably.
Yeah.
And we'll edit that out. Guess what the clip to promo the episode is gonna be.
I'll pay that $5. All right. I was gonna make a joke about that. What were you saying? Oh, yeah, you were saying that because everything got matched together, they missed some stuff. And that's the whole thing. Like, we can't expect them to get it all perfect when they come out with these huge new systems, but it does kind of suck that like 2 weeks before the tournament, I'm telling them, like, I think this is an issue, and they just don't answer me. It's like, I repeat it, and I'm like, I send the email again, like, hey, are you going to change this or not? I would like to know. It's going to change how I prepare and what deck I decide to submit. And they just don't answer me again. It's like, can you at least acknowledge it and say, like, we're not going to change it? They waited until the last round of the tournament to tell us. Larrabee's like, okay, it's not changing, so good luck. And I decided to draw. Luckily, paid off.
Yeah, and I really got to commend you, Austin. You've really kind of stuck to your guns on calling out things that you see as injustices or you see that have been done poorly and that, can be improved upon. Because at the end of the day, we don't expect perfection from Wizards, but we do expect them to be better. And they can be better. And, it's a reciprocal, symbiotic relationship where, they're communicating with us and helping us, we're communicating with them, helping them so that they can offer a better product. We can benefit from them and the whole circle goes around. And, you've been sort of a lightning rod bringing a lot of these issues to attention to your own detriment. And I really got to commend you because like the work that you've sort of done, the issues that you've brought to the light help all of us competitive Magic players. And I know, most of us would not want to be out there sort of having to bear the brunt of the storm. So thank you for doing all of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's no problem. Like for me, it's easy. I'm an outsider. I'm not in the leagues. It sucks to me that the direction that everything has gone in is like, it kind of forces you to be a certain thing. And it's like, you can't be mad at anyone that's like trying to build their brand or they want to stream. Like, I tried to stream and I don't have time. You have to be consistent. You have to stream a lot of hours. And so if you want to take that route, then good for you. And you should do it because that's like, that's a way to get relevant in Magic right now. And it's just, to me, it hurts and it sucks that the tournaments, like the most competitive tournaments and the highest levels of the game and like the most fun part of the game for me, which is just like playing in the big professional tournaments, is so tied to so much stuff other than like how you do in tournaments and how good you are at Magic and how you play. Because I mean, it seems like that's wrong to me, but the fact of the matter is that's just how it is. So you just have to accept it. And yeah, if you're going to come out and like be negative against Wizards or whatever, like what is the point? Like people complain, like Hoogland or whatever, he's like gotten the Hoogland treatment because they're not coming out and inviting him to tournaments, even though he's still streaming and has such a big stream. But like, what did you expect? Like, what do I expect? They banned me because I tweeted that thing. Like, I think that was wrong and they were absurd to do that. But whenever I'm like pushing back at them and saying, I think this is dumb or this is, this is wrong and you shouldn't do this, like, I can't expect them to be like reaching over for me. Like, I know I'm not going to retroactively get anything special because of what I've done. So it's like, I've just accepted that. And I've accepted that I'm not going to stream. I'm not going to be like reaching out to people to try to like make amends at Wizards and say like, I'm so sorry that this, and I want to change. Like, I'm just going to do what I do. Like it actively hurts you. Like Lucas, Esper Bertude in the leagues and like Jerry, you see them like fighting on Twitter, constantly saying things. And like, you can guarantee that they don't like it. Like they don't like that Lucas is doing that. And it's like, it's hurting him in his Magic career, I'm assuming. And it's just going to cause him to get less opportunities in the future. But it's like, to me, it's just like, it's just the right thing to do. And I care more about like my friends and the immediate future of like this, what's coming up right now and what's happening right now, than like trying to set myself up as like, okay, I'll get more opportunities in a few years if I just calm down or whatever. Like, I'm just not going to do that. But at the same time, I've pushed these same points so many times that it's like, I'm starting to step back a little bit. Like, look, we all know what happened. And like I said earlier, it's like, I can't really do anything else at this point. If they keep doing things that are unfair, then I'll keep pointing them out and I'll keep joking about it. But it's like, they know what they did when they took the money away. They know what's happening. And it's like, we can't do anything about it. So that's it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, there is only so much that can be done, but at least the general populace knows. And I think that's an important step, and I think that, I don't know, being the eternal optimist, I really do hope that things will get better. And I mean, I know for a lot of people that have been in organized play for a long time, things get better, things get worse. And it's just the way that it is, right? Life is full of ups and downs. But at the very least, the player base is knowledgeable. And, we kind of sort of move together a little bit more as one. And there's a little bit less of people isolated, kind of fighting the good fight on their own.
Well, we really want to thank Austin. Thanks for coming out and kind of just giving your open and honest opinions. And I think we all want to just say congratulations for a really well played event.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me. I feel like I talked a lot. I didn't really know what to expect going in, but yeah, I was happy to be here and it was a lot of fun. So thank y'all.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks again. Yeah. Seriously, looking forward to seeing you in your next tournament. Good luck at the Zendikar Rising Championship. We'll be rooting on.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. I'll need it.
All right, so we are wrapping up now. We want to go over a few things. First of all, we want to say thank you. We've got a lot of people in our Patreon. I know, and we've been trying to spew out content as quickly as we can. I know I just did deck techs on my rogue stack, which I briefly touched on in this cast, but we'll certainly be playing a bunch more of moving forward and talking about in our Discord, and also the Jund Sacrifice deck in Historic. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on, and I know we've got a tournament coming up this weekend.
Yeah, so this tournament this weekend is 11 a.m. EST, and it's for all our patrons. There's $500 on the line for this first tournament, and we're really grateful again that we are already able to do those tournaments, and we're looking forward to it. So it's really great also to join the tournament to test for the upcoming qualifier, because there will be many players, and it will be casted with us three, with Jason and Seth, on Seth Manfield's Twitch channel. So definitely check that out. And yeah, thanks to our patrons.
I'm excited for it because it's going to be the new standard format. If you can't play in it, go ahead, tune into my Twitch, watch it and get some expertise from us. And hey, it's the weekend before the qualifier weekend. So like if you're qualified for that qualifier, what better way to practice for it than playing a tournament against these other players and then prepare that way?
That's right. Yeah, there's really no replacing tournament experience. Got to throw that deck up against the tournament to find out what it's really made of. And our team is going to be doing just that. So a special thank you to all of our Planeswalker team: Anaphylactic 101, Bill Gons, Foxy, Hassel, Incognito, Lawsy, Mad Salaryman, Mythic Richard, Oppo, Puppet Master 26, Raviously, Smash Jacks, Wily Narwhal, Keymaker, Carlo, David Nowicki, Name is Mud, Kyle, OCD, The Noble Zephania, and Tim Frank. Thank you guys all so much. We really appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you guys battle in the tournament this weekend. And let's get some of those qualifications, some invites to the Mythic Championship in 2 weeks. Looking forward to it, guys.